Hello. It's it's bittersweet, sitting here in this type of circumstances that in one hand you have such respect for Coach Fuente and the job he was doing, and then just overwhelmingly humbled by the by Whit Babcock's belief in me and him appointing me the interim head coach, and just want to do my best for these kids. These kids deserve to go out a winner. The seniors deserve to win. There's a lot to play for, and the kids have really rebounded based on the situation. I think dealing with the last 2 years, I don't think there's a team that's had to deal with more hardship and overcome more adversity, which the Virginia Tech family obviously knows a ton about, overcoming adversity through the years and through different seasons, and these kids are exactly that. They're resilient, they're tough, and we're going to do our best to finish the thing out for us. And there's still goals that we can reach, and with that, we can open up for any questions.
Go ahead.
I'll throw you in deep end. In terms of injuries, is Trey Turner going to take the trip and is going to drive? And then what's the status of Brock Hoffman?
Brock was at practice today, and we'll see how he progresses. Trey's going to make the drive, 23 hours. With what he's got going, we can't fly him. Says a lot about him as an individual willing to do that for his teammates, but also our training staff, and with the two young men that volunteered, jumped at the chance to help us out. Didn't have to convince anyone to try to drive Trey down. These two guys, they stepped up, and then they're going to take the time, and they're going to drive halfway down, and then get a hotel, and then finish it up the next day. And Trey will be there, and he'll be ready to go.
And then kind of looking just at what you mentioned, bittersweet, getting past that part of it, given you played here, started coaching, being a strength assistant here, will it mean something to you at the end of the day, even if this is just 2 weeks, having your name be on the list of people that were the head coach of Virginia Tech?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I keep pinching myself.
Travis?
Hey, JC, I understand you took the guys over to the memorial on campus this morning. Can you describe the purpose of that trip and maybe what your message was to them there?
I'll be honest with you. That's I want to keep that between our team and our family. We did do that. It was not something that I would want to even talk about. In fact, we talked about them as players. I asked them not to tweet about it, so I don't know how you guys even found out about it. It was something that I thought we needed to do to maintain our why and understand how important this place is and what it means to me and what it means to our team to finish this thing up and go win and get back to bowls and get back to delivering Virginia Tech its rightful self and rightful place in college football as a perennial bowl contender and a team that plays for championships. And there's still things out there that we can do, and that was just a reminder of what it means to be a Hokie, and I'll leave it at that because it was really something that was just meant to stay between us and the team.
Yeah, I'm just curious too, since you found out earlier this week that you were going to be the interim, have you had any conversations with Coach Beamer or Bud Foster since then?
I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. Those two obviously reached out, and one of the first offices I went and sat in was Bud's. And I've had great advice from guys I played with, guys I've coached with in past schools. Coach Beamer, Coach Foster, they've all, given you great ideas, and at the same time, so you have to try to, you got to try to get through what everyone's trying to suggest to you, and you got to pick out what you think is best, and you have to do what I think is best for this team, and I think I am. We're going to change some things as far as how we travel, how we go to the hotel, but at the same time, coaches and players are creatures of habit, so the nuts and the bolts had to remain the same as far as class schedules, time we practice, how we practice. We're all creatures of habit, and that part's not broken because we're close, and that's the heartbreaking part of it. Then, And I'm just going to be honest, and you come up to people and people tell you congratulations, it feels like they're ripping my heart out. Because I didn't want it under these circumstances. But once again, it's humbling to be the guy that Whit has decided to lead us the last 2 weeks, and I'm just going to be me and do everything I can for these kids.
And then, JC, in terms of the players' reaction, everything, have you kind of had an open door policy if anybody wants to talk about being uneasy about their futures, or what's the reaction? I know you mentioned resilience, but I have to imagine the uncertainty is hard to deal with, for your coaches as well. But in terms of the players, have you had a lot of those conversations one-on-one, or just when you've met with the team, does that kind of suffice? How have they kind of reacted to the last couple of days?
There's no playbook for what we're going through. The timing of it was the timing of it. No one picks a perfect time to give someone bad news. There is no good time to give bad news. And so I understand the situation, how it came about, but to do it on a Tuesday was tough. And once we broke the team meeting, I think the position coaches did a great job of rallying the young men, of being psychologists probably more than anything. And there was probably not much football talked that morning prior to practice. And to the kids' credit, it was an incredible practice. The kids came out. It was obviously somber. Don't get me wrong, but considering the circumstances and what they went through, just being prior to going on a practice field on a Tuesday, those kids practiced their hind butts off. I mean, they did everything we asked them to do, and it was impressive how those kids responded. And I think when you have a team that, one, has gone through so many just heartbreaking close losses like we have, on top of how their COVID season went. Now, I know I was not here, but I understand that I know what happened. One, because this is my school. And two, you hear the players and the coaches describe what happened during the COVID season. So I think that allowed them to be able to rebound from this in a way that I never thought they would be able to do so quickly.
Jesse, I think a lot of coaches, maybe early in their careers, envision themselves someday being a head coach. Did you ever envision that? Was that something on your radar when you were a younger coach?
Of course it is. I think anybody who gets into this business wants to be in charge. And if they tell you they don't, I would call them a liar, because I think there's a process that I think every coach goes through. A young coach, you have to learn how to coach. You're a GA, you become a position coach, you become a coordinator, and then you think one day, well, I'm going to be a head coach. And then there's only so many jobs out there, and for me to be sitting here as an interim head coach is just, I don't think I ever in my wildest dreams thought that would happen. And to have my head coach after my name at Virginia Tech, I don't think there's a greater honor.
You're playing Miami this week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the history with them, the old Big East rivals. Anything stand out from your times of playing Miami back in the day that's a good memory?
Oh yeah, obviously the one that will come to mind is the first time we beat them in '95, my senior year. I think I had a good game that day. I'm not sure. But just what it took to overcome, how far ahead they were talent-wise. They were better than us in the early 90s, and by the mid-90s we overtook them. And then from then on, until probably the middle 2000s, we dominated them. And so that was great to see and great to be a part of. And I've been a part of a lot of great things at this university. But when you talk about, again, overcoming adversity in 1995, we lose to a good BC team. We lose to Cincinnati out here in the mud. And, a team that was preseason ranked, now we're sitting at 0-2. And to find a way to go beat a team that you've never beaten, I think that speaks volumes of that team in 1995. But there's all kinds of teams that are like that in the history of Virginia Tech. 2010 team started out 0-2. so that I'm just pressing upon these guys that our story is not written. Our book's not finished. What's it going to say? At the end of the day, if we can find a way to win one, maybe 2 games, then maybe this team will be, remembered as the most resilient, mentally tough team that Virginia Tech's ever had to overcome what they have gone through in the last 2 years. No other team has had to overcome what they've gone through. And if we can get that done, I'll tip my hat to the kids because it's about them.
Do you remember your message to the team? I think I've read that you sort of spoke to the team after that Cincinnati loss in 1995, addressing the team. Do you remember?
Not particularly. I'm sure it was emotional, and I know I don't really recall much of what was said, and it was probably profanity laced. So it was probably not for print, but it was. Seniors have to lead, and that's what we did on that team. We had really good players, really good leaders, and the senior class that year, we like to think was a big part of what Virginia Tech became, and now we're not that far away from being that. In my heart of hearts, we could easily be 7-2, 8-1, but we're not. So, what is that going? What is we're going to finish writing this book the next 2 weeks, and I just get to sit in the head chair. That's all.
Dave, Coach, no doubt this has been an emotional week for you and your players, but there's still a game to prepare for. What's the football preparation side been like, not only for them, but for you and your staff, and at least getting a plan and keeping this thing going so that way you go into Miami?
Well, like I said earlier, not much has changed as far as the nuts and bolts. I think one of the reasons Whit chose me, other than just my overwhelming love for this place, was it would allow the coordinators to continue to be coordinators. Coach Shebus can still concentrate on the special teams. Corn and J. Ham can do their thing, and I can take some of the other details of the day-to-day operations off of those guys, so they could focus on putting together the best game plan to head down to Miami to give our guys the chance to compete against Miami.
Is there anything that surprised you maybe about the preparation now being in the head coaching position? Anything maybe you didn't expect?
Just the fact that you never turn your brain off. I constantly, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right things? Did I change the right thing? Because you can't have everything the same. You can't change everything, but everything can't be the same. So it's a fine line. I've been walking that line, and I just hope that I pray that I'm doing right by these kids, so they have a chance to be successful. These last 2 weeks. And it's all about the kids. It's not about anything else. It's not about one coach. It's not about any of that. It's about the players in that locker room and doing what I think is best for them. And that's tough to say. You go from being a position coach, and now, you have a say in a lot of things that I didn't have a say in before. So that we are going to change some things, but that's kind of how I see it.
Jermaine. Coach Price, sort of a two-part question. Where do you feel this season things kind of got off the rails? And number two, in your role right now, what do you feel you can do to help the team have success the rest of the way?
There's a lot of parity in college football. I think there's, you look at it, and there's probably 4 teams in the country, 4 or 5, maybe 6, that are probably a little better than everybody else. Then you have a big, large group of everybody else that on any given Saturday can win or lose a game. And it's so fragile. It's so close. It's such a thin line between winning and losing when you're in that middle group. And then there's probably about 10 teams that just aren't very good. And we're in that middle section. And we have just not found ways to win games that we should have. That you self-reflect about what I could I have done better as a DN coach? What could I have done better as a position coach? What could I have, how could I have helped Coach Fuente and the team more? That's what I always think about. And it's such a fine line, guys, between on Saturday winning and losing. And the tide can turn so quickly. And we've just got to find a way to finish off these games and make the Hokie Nation proud of us.
In terms of, so, after getting the speech out of the way on Tuesday, like, did you have like how do you come up with a plan of attack? And like, you're supposed to do position meetings, I think, is what the schedule was. And so, do you not participate now in the position stuff? Are you removing yourself that? Like, how does you mentioned now you have all these decisions, but like your day to day, how have you kind of changed it from being a guy that's in the position room to now, what is your kind of focus kind of now?
Well, I have relied heavily on Bill Tierlink and Corey Rush, our GA, as far as me not being able to watch as much film as I could watch as a position coach, but I still was coaching the guys in the meeting. The great thing about having two D-line coaches is that the game is so different D-line wise than it was when I played. When I played, the five, everybody was getting the same things. Nowadays, the inside tackles and the ends, what they see and how they play are totally different. It's almost like it's really, I know it's two different positions, but it's really two different positions. So there's so many just interesting, little small details about playing D end that you don't have to worry about if you're playing D tackle. So that's the great thing about having two D-line coaches. So Bill has done a great job of helping me with the film aspect, and me and J-Ham, we meet extra to make sure I know what's going on, but I was still running the DN meetings. Me and Bill still wanted to meet separate to make sure that those kids are getting the extra time they need. So, instead of Bill coaching, 4 guys, 12 guys with 3 deep, he's still coaching half of that. So I was still handling the position meetings, and in practice I bounce around, and then I'm more of trying to make sure practice runs smoothly and more having the head coach's role per se.
And you mentioned changing up the team travel to
Mhm.
the hotel. Why was that something you thought? I'm just curious, like what that means, and why was that something you thought maybe could use? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Curious
no,
why you picked that. It wasn't something that stood out. Or was it something that you became used to as a player, or something that you thought, where did that come from?
Not really. Talking to guys I know in this business who sat in this chair with the label that I have. Of course, I reached out quickly. What did you do? What were things you wish you could have done different? What did you do that you liked? And if the whole season we had been doing A, I'd have said, hey, we need to do B. If the whole season we've been doing A, I would have said B, I would have said we need to do A. It's not even about what it is. It's about it being different and just changing something to try to infuse some energy and enthusiasm into the kids, and obviously a tough time that they're going through.
So you leave earlier? What is like?
No. The schedule's going to be the schedule. It's just little things it's just little. It's nothing. It's not even a detail that's even worth mentioning. It's just how we eat. It's really nonsensical, to be honest with you. But you have to change something, but you can't change the wrong thing or go overboard. And so I'm not going overboard, but I'm hoping by just tweaking something a little bit that we can have a little bit more fellowship and become a little bit closer team these next 2 weeks going down the stretch.
David?
JC, 10 years ago, you were at James Madison. Somebody told you that 10 years from then, you would have had head coach for Virginia Tech next to your name. What would you have said?
You could have asked me that last Thursday, okay, and I wouldn't have said there's no chance in hell that would ever happen. And not this soon. I mean, obviously, I would always have a goal of becoming the head coach of Virginia Tech, and if you don't have goals and aspirations like that to coach at your school, then I think you're full of it. But no, I would have never thought that in my wildest dreams. Everybody has a path in their coaching profession, and it takes twists and turns, and you make this decision and it's the right decision. You make this one, you never know it's the right or wrong decision until it's after the fact. And the thing I tried to do going into my coaching career personally was I didn't want to move around. So when I was at JMU for 7 years, I didn't pursue a lot of jobs. I'm probably the worst self-promoter in the history of self-promotion. I was at Marshall for 9 years, and we were happy, you know. And if you know, they hadn't made a change there, then I still might be there. I don't know. But that's the great thing about football, and football mirrors so much in life that you don't know what's going to come at you next. And I constantly tell the kids the same thing I tell my two daughters. You control your attitude and your effort every day. And that's on you. No one has the power to tell me how I should act and how I should feel. That's all inner driven, and that's all I'm trying to relate to the kids.
Paul, then Andy.
JC, as far as game day itself out on the field, what is your role going to be as far as the offense, the defense, the special teams, the decision-making process for plays that are called, things of that nature?
Well, hopefully I just get to stay out of the way and watch the game. But I'm sure that's not going to happen. I'm just there to support Korn and J-Ham and Shebus and whatever they need to me. I will be making, obviously, the decisions that every head coach makes. I will be wearing the head coach hat. I will not be the D-line coach or the D-ends coach. I will have very little to do with that. I will be wearing the head coach's hat as far as trying to deal with time management, game management, trying to help Korn make decisions on if we should go for it and those things. So I'll be wearing Saturday. I would be totally wearing the head coach hat.
And then as far as Whit mentioned on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that they were going to do a Zoom call with the recruits that Virginia Tech has already got verbal commitments from. Were you part of that? And if so, how did that go, kind of just as a general point of topic?
Am I allowed there? Okay. Yeah, I was part of that. The thing about it is it's my school. I love this place. We don't know what's going to happen, you know, and I could be the interim head coach for 2 weeks and then not be here next year. And if I'm not, I still want those kids to come here. I still want I want my school to retain a top 20 recruiting class. That's my goal. If I'm here, great. In whatever capacity I can be here, I want to be here. I want those recruits here. We worked our butts off, this staff did, to get a top 20 recruiting class. And there's a lot of good players in there, but there's a lot of good kids. There's a lot of good people, a lot of good families that are in those kids that made verbal commitments to us. And I was on the Zoom. I thought it went great. We were maybe missing a handful of kids, but other than that, every kid that was committed got on the Zoom, and we answered their questions the best we could and try to relieve some of their concerns. And we were just open and honest.
Andy.
JC, what kind of style of coaching would you describe? Say you have, if somebody were to describe you, are you an emotional guy? Are you a tough-nosed guy? I mean, what?
Yes. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out because I think the way you coach at D-line, which that's what I've coached my whole life. I've never coached another position. I think the type of guy you have to be is you have to be a little excitable. You have to be on edge. You have to be enthusiastic. You got to walk that thin line of control and crazy. Whereas a head coach, I guess we'll find out Saturday because I've never been a head coach at any level, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that I'm like Coach Beamer, that when I panic, that's when the kids should worry. I'm going to do my best to keep my cool because I think that's what a leader is supposed to do. I don't think a leader is supposed to get too high or too emotional. That's just my opinion. I love the way Coach Beamer was as a head coach. He used to tell us, don't you panic unless you see me panic, and he never panicked. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that if all of a sudden we get some calls that don't go our way, that I'm going to revert back to being a D-line coach and lose my ever-loving mind. But I'm going to try my best not to.
All right, let's go out to David Teal on Zoom.
JC, how did Monday night and Tuesday morning unfold for you? When did you even first get wind that change was in the air and you might be the interim head coach?
Well, there were a couple conversations, and then I had a good chat with Witt early Tuesday morning. I basically found out the same time everyone else did. It was, but the thing about it is, this thing is not about me. It's about the team to continue to prove, and it's about the kids. And I've always been the worst self promoter, and believe me, the last thing I want to do is ever talk about J.C. Price. I want to talk about these great student athletes we have, and about trying to get them a win.
And then there are still guys on this staff like Brad and Vance and James who are very close with Justin.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult has this been on them, and how have they responded in the last couple days trying to get this team ready?
Well, everyone has had a great. If people, obviously, we're all hurting. Let me say that first and foremost. We're all, and the same thing I told the players, I told the coaches. Whatever way you're feeling, whatever sort of way you feel is okay, and it's right. So whatever emotion you're having is the correct emotion because it's yours. Those guys have been nothing but solid, man. There hasn't been a day where we've questioned anybody's want to or want to continue on, and everybody's been totally professional and gone about their business and gone about their work, and we're all professionals. We've all been through this. You know, every coach gets hired, every coach is going to get fired. That's just the way it is, and you know that going into it. And the staff, whether it's been the guys who are ex-Hokies or the guys who have had a longer relationship with Coach Fuente, we've all put our sleeves up and just gone to work, and we're going to try to put these kids in the best position we can.
Hank?
Hey, JC, congratulations. How much, if at all, do you view these two games as kind of an audition to be the permanent head coach?
Not at all. Not at all. I want to go 1-0 this week, and that's not coach speak. It's not about me. I'm not auditioning to be the head coach. I don't expect to be the head coach at Virginia Tech. I've been promised nothing. Witt has not said, "Hey, you do this, do that," and no, I'm trying to keep us organized, try to keep us on the right path, get us in the right position to go win, and that's all that I'm concerned about. I haven't thought one thing about becoming the next head coach of Virginia Tech, and in fact, I will share with you that I've told the team that I don't expect to be the head coach after this. I expect to be the head coach for the next 2 weeks, and then hopefully I'll be getting us ready to go to a bowl game. That's my only goal.
Okay, and one other thing that if Trey can't fly because of a respiratory problem, the whole driving down and playing, do you have a concern about him playing football? He's got a respiratory situation?
To be honest with you, you'd have to ask the Goforth or Brett about that. I'm not really sure or even understand what's going on. I know there's some air trapped in his upper chest and his throat, so I can't speak intelligently on that. I know that he has cleared the play, but flying would exacerbate the situation in his health, so that's why we're choosing to drive him.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Barber?
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious. I spoke to Clay Helton this morning, and he's been an interim coach twice, and he talked about the discipline it takes in that job to be focused on one day at a time, one game at a time, when your future is kind of up in the air, right? The natural thing would be what's next for Coach Price. Where do you find that discipline?
You know, it's been instilled for me since I was here, since 1992. You know, when I first got here, it's pretty chronicled that I was a little bit of a knucklehead. I was probably a huge knucklehead about the first year and a half, 2 years I was here, and I grew up, and you know, I left, you know, Virginia Tech as a young adult. Now I'm coming back and I'm a grown man, and I'm just doing what grown men are supposed to do. Grown men are supposed to help young men become better people, and that's all I'm doing. And literally, that's all I'm trying to do is see one day at a time. Because any further than that, then I'm going to be overwhelmed. And I don't want, and then to me, if I'm overwhelmed, then I'm gonna make a poor choice or a poor decision, and I'm not gonna do that. To even to the fact that I changed something in the travel schedule an hour ago that I should have changed a day ago, but I was unsure about, and I said, you know what, we're gonna do it, and I want to make sure that every decision that I make is thought out, intelligently thought out, so not to rush anything or put these kids in a situation where they can't be successful. It's all about the players. It's not even close about me. And whatever happens with my coaching career next year, then that's what's supposed to happen. If I'm supposed to be here, I'll be here. All right. If I'm not, then I will be wherever I'm supposed to be. I have a great supportive wife. I got 2 beautiful, intelligent daughters. They're older now, so they understand this business. I just went through it last year, and J.M. made a comment, and he was so true. 6 months ago, I told him I'd crawl on my hands and knees to be the D-line coach at Virginia Tech, and now all of a sudden I'm sitting in this chair, and I told him, you know what? I'll still crawl on my hands and knees to work here. I just want to be here. So whatever capacity it is, great. I don't care what it is. But if I'm not, then I'm going to take that, and I'm going to attack that with a great attitude and effort, like I do, attitude and effort, and like I do everything in my life. And I told the players, I don't have bad days. I have good days or I have great days. And so that's the only way I can look at it. And when you're in this profession, you'll drive yourself crazy if you try to forecast what you're going to be down the road. Because, like I said, you could have asked me Monday night if I was sitting in this chair, and I told you you were crazy. So.
Couple more.
And I apologize for this being a bit of an awkward question, but you know me, I occasionally ask those. Are you keeping your office? Do you move into the head coach's office?
No.
Physically, how do you handle that?
No, I'm doing everything out of my office. No, my office.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, man.
You mentioned you're sorting through, getting texts and sorting through which advice to take. I'd imagine one person you'll listen to is your wife. What was her advice? She's connected with very athletic background. Did she have any advice for you? No, she's not. What advice did you was she found out?
When I eventually got a chance to tell her, obviously she was ecstatic, excited for me about the opportunity. But once again, that was also tempered with the fact that I could be out of work in 2 weeks. So her only suggestion and advice was the same thing that I once again, just go out and be yourself, and that'll be fine. And believe in my decisions. Don't second guess myself, and do what I think is right. And that's basically what she said, which was echoed by a lot of people. So.